Well, the most popular vegetable in the garden is the tomato, and of course a lot of people grow it in containers and even have them in their flower beds. And earlier on in the season, we showed you some of the varieties we grew at the garden, and we talked to you about some of their characteristics. Well, Barb is going to show us now how to use one in particular in the kitchen, and Barb, that's our yellow stuffer.
Right, and this one is really a cute looking vegetable because you can end up with, it looks so much like a green pepper. It's got the shape of a green pepper and whatnot. Now all we're going to do on these in order to use them as a salad or even a main course type of salad is go ahead and cut the top off. And you can just make a straight slice across, and you notice that inside, the inside even continues to look like a pepper. This you can just take out just like you would pepper seeds. At this point we have something, now this one I would probably slice the bottom off a little bit if I'm going to serve it on a salad plate so it won't slide and fall over. And then stuff it with any variety of things. Here we have a seafood salad. Just put it in the middle there. These are our raw as is. You can also put in, as you can see on our display, we've got macaroni salad in one, potato salad could go in this kind of thing. We have mixed vegetables in there so that it's a very versatile serving container that then people can eat. Also, you can go ahead and put something that's not going to take a long time to bake in this. We've heard reports that works fairly well. Stuffing mixes, for instance, you could put inside, put them in a microwave for a short period of time just to warm the tomato up after you've got them heated and have something that's a little bit more unique as a way to serve. These themselves, as eating tomatoes, are not quite as flavorful as some of the traditional varieties that we use.
Right, not much flavor at all, and that's a good point for us really to discuss, Barb. We've got some of the red tomatoes and the yellow ones here, and we've had some people ask us to discuss the acidity question that always comes up on tomatoes. What is the bottom line, you think, when we're talking about yellow versus a red tomato?
The yellow ones tend to be a little bit less acidic, but that's just a real general answer. The one red tomato on one vine may be less than a yellow one on another vine. So it's really nothing that's definitive. Some yellows are more acidic than reds.
And you know, if you compare it to like a soil test, when we talk about pH and those things, tomatoes run around 4, 4.2, 4.5 on the acidity level. Now, a lot of people think eating the yellow ones is easy on your stomach, but you've told me that really our stomach is more acid than the tomatoes.
The stomach is much more acid than any of the tomatoes. We tend to lose acidity in our stomachs as we age, but it's got hydrochloric acid in there still, even as we're older, and it's going to be much more acidic than a tomato would be.
And Barb, you know, we talked earlier in the program too about tomato is really a fruit, and we've got a listing here of things that are even more acidic than a tomato, and I find this interesting, and most of them are fruits, but like vinegar, lemon juice, applesauce, peaches, honey, and red cabbage and pears are all more acidic than tomatoes, and that's a good comparison as well.
And when you look at that list that you just talked about, you can see why we have water bath canning for fruits and why we have pressure canning for vegetables and why tomatoes are kind of a critical item because they're right in the middle. And in order to make sure that they're safely canned, you have to follow current recommendations, which include adding a tablespoon of lemon juice to every pint because you don't know if you've got one of these that may be a little bit on the low acid side. So that additional bottled lemon juice, commercially made lemon juice, will make sure that your tomatoes are safe. And that's really the only time that is critical is when you're canning.
And you know, even growing them in different parts of the country can change the acidity of one variety. Might be more acidic in this part of the country compared to another part, and as you mentioned, the change in seasons even change.
Different things that happen as the season progresses. You may start out with one that the first tomatoes are more acid. Then as the weather gets hot, the vines begin to wilt, the weather gets real dry. The acidity on those tomatoes is going to be lower.
Right. So the yellow tomato is a little bit more acid, but not enough that it really makes that much difference then.
The main thing you're going to be looking at is flavor differences, and many times it's not a difference in acidity so much as it is a difference in sugar content.
And really it's those two combined that gives us the flavor of the tomato. Now another thing we want to point out too this time of year, the fruits obviously get smaller as the summer goes on, and a lot of tomato plants even stop producing, and you'll get growth cracks on the fruits from just variation in water, and a lot of times the shoulders of tomatoes will crack or even not really ripen up, and again it's just usually a result of the heat and the different growing conditions, the stressful growing conditions that they're on this time of year. But one thing else we need to address, Barb, and that is If I pick this tomato and it's not quite ripe and I bring it indoors, what should I do with it?
You should put it either in a brown paper bag if you don't have a cool, dark place. But basically what you don't do is put it in a windowsill where it's going to get more sun, and you definitely don't put it in the refrigerator because it's never going to ripen once it gets cold.
That kills the ripening process. Now, if it's overripe and it's to the point that we need to salvage it or save it for a few hours, then it's okay.
Once they're fully ripe, if you like cold tomatoes, then go ahead and put them in the refrigerator to chill down. Another thing that people may not know is that once you cut a tomato, you start losing flavor. The maximum and peak flavor will be in a tomato that's cut within about 3 minutes of cutting. So you don't want to cut them way ahead of time and then do the rest of your dinner preparations. You want to cut them as close to serving time as possible.
Well, those are all some good points for our favorite vegetable. And again, we would like for you to try some of these different types of vegetables next year and let us know what you think. And again, remember to send in some of those recipes that we can use here on Oklahoma Gardening. And you would send that to Oklahoma Gardening, Stillwater, Oklahoma 74078. And Barb, thanks again.
Thank you, Steve.
We hope you've enjoyed this classic from the Oklahoma Gardening Vault. Remember, even though these tips and techniques are timeless, there's always something new to learn in the world of gardening. By subscribing to both Oklahoma Gardening and OK Gardening Classics, you'll have access to a wealth of gardening knowledge, both classic and contemporary.